Hello, dear friends of both IFC and Toboloco Server. I'm your host, Ryubix, and I'm here with my friend and co-host of this new podcast, Sam.
Hello.
How do you feel today, Sam?
I am excited and pumped about this.
Me too. And it's like a new experience for us to finally make an emission out of those exciting qualifiers.
Exactly.
So, yes, as you guessed it, if you're here, that's our first podcast on football, and this time, of course, we'll talk about the biggest event out there, the qualifiers of the next World Cup. So,
hmm
if, for what you know, not if, now for sure, we will start with our first continent, Asia, or the AFC Confederation. Now, if you please make a brief explanation, Sam, it's your turn.
Sure. So, like you said, it's AFC is Asia. And so we've had some interesting results these last couple match days, didn't we?
Yes, indeed.
So let's start off with we're gonna go through the November ones. So we had a draw between Australia and Saudi Arabia. They tied 0-0. We had South Korea narrowly escape the UAE with a 1-0 win, which that's surprising because we always thought that South Korea would get at least 2 or 3 against them. At least I did. Japan had only scored one against Vietnam. We had Iran beat Lebanon 2-1, and then we had a draw between Oman and China, and a 1-1 draw, and a 1-1 draw between Iraq and Syria. So those were all kind of low scoring. I would expected more goals from Japan. I know Australia and Saudi Arabia. That was always going to be a big tie, so that one is not too much. Like I said before, South Korea, I expected a couple more goals. Lebanon is pretty good defensively from what I see, so Iran getting two over them, that's about normal. What do you think from those matchups?
Um, I think I will first go with Group A, so it's easier to everyone. For me, South Korea and Iran just showed they are still among the boss countries in the Asia and are, as we can see in the rankings, they are confirming that they are still top tier on the continent and they are very close to qualify, if not already, because they
Yeah.
have like they are very tied on the score and rankings, but they are far ahead of their groups. Like they were already the favorites, but it's very way beyond than expected from them.
hmm there were more scores, by the way. So then on the 16th, we had Saudi Arabia beat Vietnam 1-0. So Vietnam's been a pretty defensive team. The UAE only scored one against Lebanon. We had a 1-1 draw between China and Australia. That's surprising on Australia's part. 3-0 against, or sorry, a 3-0 win for the South Korea against Iraq. Uh, Japan was able to beat Oman this time, but only 1-0. And Iran, showing that they are indeed supposed to be at the top, they win 3-0 over Syria in that very last
Yeah,
match.
that Syrian team very lost some fire since the last World Cup qualifiers, even during the AFC Asians Cup 2019. I remember that they were very promising and still they ended last of their group. Yes, that
Yes.
I know some people were like Syria will qualify for 2022, but I was even in my previous video on them on Asia, I was very against the idea that they will qualify. I already knew that it was just a golden era, that was just very short. It was like some moments you can talk in the storybooks, but nothing else. Since only 6 months after the qualifiers, they just failed bad in the Asian Cup. It was just the truth that Syria is capable of going to the next round, but not to the World Cup. And but it's interesting that maybe the two first spots in Group A we are already taken from my point of view, but it means that
Yeah.
in counterpart there will be a four teams confrontation for the playoffs, and maybe
Right. So
that's what it will be interesting during the last four match days, at least in Group
mhm.
A.
Yeah, so Iran and South Korea both have double digits in their points, and the other four teams don't. That's so to me, I agree with you with that. Iran and South Korea are both going to go to the World Cup. As far as I think, they only need like one or two more wins, or maybe like 4 points each, or something like that, in order to make it. Something like that. This third place, though, the one that goes into the was it the third
It,
round right now?
fourth round. For actually we are in the third round, and
Yeah.
after there is the fourth round that will decide the teams that will go into intercontinental playoffs.
hmm Yeah, so there's only 4 points separating the bottom four teams for that
Final
playoff
spot,
spot.
playoff spot where you are right. It's more correct to
Yeah.
say it that way.
Um, the UAE and Lebanon both have the advantage. I think Iraq isn't really showing as much as I expected them to, but it's still there's still enough match days where they can come back. But I feel like Iraq's a better team than fifth place in that group. It's just a matter of how defensive Lebanon is going to be and what kind of a team we get with the UAE.
Personally, I think that out of those four, UAE and Iraq are maybe the two best pretenders to the playoffs. But as I can see with the next international window calendar, actually Lebanon is maybe in a good position. I mean, South Korea is not the most offensive team in Asia, at least compared to Iran, and they get to. Oh no, I retire what I said. I just mistook in the schedule. No, actually they are in bad position. They have to play South Korea and then Iraq, which is a rival for the playoff. So
Yeah.
no, actually out of the three, they maybe have the hardest schedule for the next window.
Well,
Since
see, Iraq still has Iran, and then they have to play Lebanon, so they're not doing so hot either.
yes, I think maybe that match will if the seventh match day will not eliminate one of them already, I think their meet in the 1st of February will settle the future of one of them at least.
hmm
Syria will play EIA and no
The UAE.
UAE on while away. It's already a bad news for them. And then
Yeah.
South Korea not at home. I think Syria will be just out by February now.
Yeah. It
UA
just kind of depends on that UAE game, I think. I think that's their big key matchup is against the United Arab Emirates because they are still within that hunt. I could see them drawing. I don't know if they will, but I can see that Syria drawing the UAE.
yeah, I wanted to say that Iraq will very shine in their derby against Iran.
hmm
But I think last time they met each other, Iran was winning like 3-0 or something like that. I will just check right now. Yes, 3-0. Iraq lost 3-0 at home against Iran. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think it's very like a battle royale at this point in this group.
hmm
And Iran and both Iran and South Korea will maybe like qualify only on the 7 match day
Yeah.
with so many points ahead. So it will be an interesting group to watch, but only for the one team that can grab that playoff spot.
Right. And the winner and the one that does grab that playoff spot still has to play the third place team in the other group,
Yeah,
which brings us to that group.
yes, Group B and last group out of the two.
So this one is way competitive at the top.
I
We've
do
got
agree.
Saudi Arabia with 16 leading, with Japan with 12, and Australia with 11 right behind them. So we've got three teams with over 10 points and three teams below 10 points. Saudi Arabia is doing really good for themselves, I think, right now. I don't see them continuing with that trend. Like they're definitely better than the bottom three teams, but unless Australia can start picking themselves up a little bit, I don't think Saudi Arabia is going to stay up top. I'm thinking it might be Japan.
I think it's already impressive to notice that Saudi Arabia have gone unbeaten for so long in that group and also are the only unbeaten team. If I'm not mistaken, I think they even got to the point they won all 5 matches in the first part of the group and only tied in the sixth match day. So we get to, oh no, my bad, it was the fifth match that was a tie,
Yeah,
but
the fifth
close
match was
enough.
a 0-0 draw. Yeah, and that
But
was with Australia.
But I think it's already impressive because I mean it was already obvious they were among the favorites for the group B, but not to the point they were unbeaten for more than half of the league.
Hmm.
Especially when you remember they get knocked out in the round of 16 of the last Asian Cup, which was, by the way, maybe a very bad and floppy performance from them. From the group stage
Hmm.
where they get beaten hard by Qatar, which was very unexpected at that time. To I don't remember who beat them in the round of 16, but I think it was not a team you expect to beat them when you got to the World Cup the year before. And
I
yeah,
don't
you may
remember
be
any.
right. Maybe at some point they will choke. Is that what you say? Maybe in Japan because they have an away game in Japan, I think,
Yeah.
and maybe that will be the time their unbeaten streak will finally break. Uh,
Hmm.
but if I have to say something else about that group, a surprise with parentheses, it's maybe Oman. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah.
It's not a country you expect to shine on qualifiers, at least until this round.
Hmm. I don't see them as a minnow per se, but they're like a middle of the pack team. I kind of tie them in with the UAE and Iraq. Um, Maybe just a bit above them, but they're definitely showing that they can actually beat the bigger teams. At least it seems like it might, whether it's a golden era for them or not. That's what is being shown right now.
Hmm. I think they were maybe in the third round for the 2010 World Cup. That's all I remember about them, to be fair. I know
Hmm.
they made like some Asian Cups, maybe two or three, but well, not they didn't really shine. It's not a country with a lot of history behind them
Right.
outside
It
of
it
qualifiers.
reminds me they're the Uzbekistan of the Middle East.
You mean by Uzbekistan? You mean a team that have a lot of potential, that were
Yes.
always very close, but not that's
Has
always
has
fail?
quite a bit of potential, but hasn't quite made it past that bar yet.
Yeah, I think I get your point. A team that always was near but didn't make it to the next round.
Mhm.
It's kind of like Iceland in the last 10 years before they got to qualify for the Euros and then
Right.
World Cup.
Yes.
Yeah, I see your point. You just reminded me that Uzbekistan was close to qualify for that round, but were not among the best runners-up to advance,
No.
which is sad.
Yeah. The North Korea being not disqualified, but opting out of the World Cup kind of screwed them over a little bit. But that's how World Cups are.
Sadly, the qualifiers are very difficult if you're not among the most developed countries, sadly. That's something we are not taught enough in football world because the FIFA World Cup is like the biggest event of the world for not for nothing because this is maybe the only World Cup where you have more than 200 national teams in the qualifiers, so it says a lot.
Yeah.
So obviously there are a lot of countries that have potential but can't reach it because there are too many people in the way.
Hmm. Um,
But
I will say China does underperform though. Like with how big their population is and stuff, you'd think that they would be one of the top tier teams. But
considering how football is popular in their country, is they are not overperforming. Actually, they are maybe playing as usual. I mean, they the last year they are reaching the final rounds of the World Cup qualifiers like they did for 2018, but like
Hmm.
they were not that well ranked. They were maybe like 11, 12 points at the end of the qualifiers, and
Right.
so they are not for what they do usually in the third round. They are not that underperforming. They are here, but they struggle to do good results. Like
No, they're doing about the same that they always do. I was saying that they're underperforming based on their population.
at
They've
least
always under.
that's better than India at least. But I think they are starting little by gaining experience.
Oh, for sure.
I'm pretty confident, not that they will become a world-class country, but at least that will get more and more decent by the years. The
Yeah.
CSL is growing little by little, so maybe the years will say about how the Chinese team will evolve in football. Only the future will say. But
Yeah.
if if I want to talk about countries that underperforms for me, it's maybe Japan and Australia.
Okay.
Why Japan? Because if you remember, they lost their initial match at home against Oman.
See, but is that from them underperforming or is that from Oman overperforming?
I think you can argue with both points of view. I think it's arguable.
For sure. I honestly think that's just Oman overperforming and Japan maybe not necessarily underperforming, but thinking of them as an easy draw or as an easy match and getting they got caught up in the fact that they knew they were the better team and so they didn't think they'd have to try as hard as they needed to.
Yeah, but two match days later they lost again against Saudi Arabia. Even so, I know Arabia is among the top teams in Asia. Like
Hmm.
when Arabia struggles in the Asian Cup while you go to the finals with big shiny matches and performance. For me, it's like an achievement for Arabia, but Japan for me underperformed. Like okay, now they're second, but they're still fighting with Australia for the second qualifying spot. And
Right.
if Saudi Arabia still managed to get at least draws in the last match days, I think Saudi Arabia will have the spot for the World Cup without any trouble.
Right. I think Saudi Arabia is just doing so good too because of where the World Cup is going to be hosted. They want to be there, especially since it's a neighboring country.
I think that's the reason, yes. I mean, I expect before the qualifiers even started, I was expecting like all the Muslim countries to really have a boost in their will to qualify because technically it's like home at home. Like it's the first time the Arab world will have to host the World Cup. So I feel like maybe we will have a temporary rise of Muslim countries in the qualifiers. Like five teams in Group A are Muslim countries. Like so, yeah, we are assured to have at least another, even maybe two of them in the World Cup. It will be, I mean, it's normal. It will be weird if there was only one country from the area at the World Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean Saudi Arabia will be there because it's their rivals, and I'm pretty sure they will give everything to go further than them, or at least outperform them. Like
Hmm.
just having
So,
more points.
so I will say Saudi Arabia has Oman and then Japan next. So they're at home against Oman and then in Japan in January. So we'll see how they do against Japan.
Yeah,
Australia has Vietnam and Oman next, so they should have an easy time. And
Vietnam
Japan has China and then Saudi Arabia, like I said. And they're both of those games are at home
and
for them.
actually Vietnam is the only team that is now not able to reach top two in their group.
Yeah, so Vietnam, because of their 0 points, they've lost every single one of their matches, which is sad, especially since this is their first. I mean, it's normal since it's their first time in this far in, but we'll see how they do later on. But yeah, they cannot automatically qualify. They are the only team in Asia that
Yeah,
that's left that
I'm
cannot
pretty sure
automatically.
that they can only do that if they manage to win all four games, and Australia mm, gains only 1 point out of the last four match days, which is very highly not possible.
Yeah,
Like even
and then
like
it just
yeah,
and it also is based on the goal difference at that point too. So
yeah, yeah. Vietnam must very do good matches. I mean, it's not impossible for them to maybe got a match or some ties, but
right,
with what they shown to us until now, I'm pretty sure they will maybe have like 1 or 2 points at the end, like Thailand in the last qualifiers, where
yeah,
they only got 2 draws out of 10 matches. I think Vietnam is just the new Thailand for this time,
yeah. But
especially when their direct rivals are the next opponent.
oh yeah, but I do want to congratulate Vietnam for making it this far, though. I don't think a lot of people would have expected that. I certainly
No.
didn't. But congrats to them, and I mean, it's sad that you're last in the group, and I feel like you're going to be last in the group. But it's a learning experience, and this will be just making it as far should give them that boost they need for the next, whether it's the AFC Cup or the next qualifiers that come up.
I think, you know what, being in the third round also grants something else, but people tend to overlook it, is that when you are in the World Cup third round, you have a direct spot into the Asian Cup. So at least they don't have to play the Asian Cup qualifiers since they got a free spot for the next
Right.
edition in China in 2023, which is very good by itself. So there's I don't think they will qualify, but they will take these qualifiers as a training to play against the top nations to really do a good Asian Cup. And I sure remember that they made the quarterfinals last time.
Hmm.
So yes, they are rising. It's like China. We just have to let them time, and little by little, their glow, average level will grow.
Yeah.
I think the current generation may give them some hope for the following years.
All right. Did you want to go over what our predictions are for the next couple matches?
Do you want to go first, or should I go first before we go to our next continent?
Um, I can go first, I guess.
There you
So we've
go.
got Lebanon at home against South Korea. Like I said before, I think Lebanon is a very defensive team. They really like to park the bus a lot. That's going to give the South Korea trouble. Um, I'm going to say it's going to be a 2-0 victory for South Korea.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I
That's,
think during those match days, both Iran and Korea, if they do not win both of their games, will at least confirm their qualifying spots. I'm pretty sure of that.
let's see. We got Japan at home against China. Japan should win that one easily, just based off of the results, or the standings so far. I'm gonna give it a 3-1 victory. I think China might pull one back, but they're not. They're not going to scare Japan in any way.
Yeah, I think Japan will very try their best to make like a comeback on Saudi Arabia, especially since they will directly play them.
Hmm.
Maybe I think they really want their revenge, like, and even confirm their spots. They wouldn't let Australia um, go ahead of them because going into the playoffs already adds you 2 games against another
Yeah.
team from Asia, and then another 2 games, so a total of 4 playoff games. And
Hmm.
those last twos are against South America, I think. If I
Yes.
remember, yes.
Yeah.
So
It'll be against
you
Congo.
really don't want to go with all of that trouble. So you
Australia's already had to deal with that once.
yes, but so yeah, so they were the team with the most qualifying games, 22, which is a lot.
Yeah.
especially when they got last of their group in 2018. So yeah, you
Uh,
really don't want to not end top two.
do you have any score lines that you want to predict for the last two games?
Personally, I think the games I'm very confident to say are Iran winning 3-0 again on Iraq, or
Okay.
or maybe Australia winning 3-0 on Vietnam, or
I
3
was
to
talking about the
1.
two matchups that we just discussed, though.
What?
Like, do you have a score line between Lebanon versus South Korea or Japan versus China?
Mm, Personally, I think the Lebanon will lose maybe one or just no goals against two for South Korea.
Okay.
I don't think maybe a tie 1-1, but I don't. That's the best hopes I give Lebanon against South Korea. Like I'm pretty sure that both Iran and Korea just wants to confirm that their World Cup spot in the next
Yeah.
two games, so they will finish the group with to train. Let's say to train, to test things
hmm
because they will not care anymore.
And what about with Japan, China? What do you think the score line will be for that?
2 or 3-0.
Okay.
Pretty sure
And
that,
I said,
like I said, Japan will do everything to stay top two.
yeah. I'm guessing 3-1, just because China does have enough um experience, not experience, but enough like big names or enough
They don't have big names.
to be able to score a goal. Or it just might be a penalty kick. Japan might just get unlucky and get um, foul China in the box, and they score a penalty. We got Saudi Arabia at home against Oman. Oman is the interesting country here, but I still think Saudi Arabia is going to win it. I'm gonna give it a 2-0 victory for Saudi Arabia. Oman can definitely score a goal. I just don't know if they're going to be able to defeat Saudi Arabia.
I'm pretty sure Saudi Arabia will not be beaten by Oman, like maybe a tie, and then we lose to Japan.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident.
Yep.
I
Then
hope.
we have a. Oh, go ahead.
I know I'm not sure about a score line here.
Yeah.
I mean, when you predict on the applications, you put money, they don't. Most of the time, you just pick the winner.
I just usually I look at the matchups and be like, okay, this team's gonna win over this team, I think, and then I think of a score line like how many goals can Australia feasibly score? How many for this next matchup anyway? How many goals can Vietnam feasibly score against an Australia side?
Yeah,
Vietnam with I'm just making an example here just because it's Australia, Vietnam is next.
fair
I think
enough.
it's gonna be like a 3 or 4-0. I'm gonna go with a 4-0 victory for Australia over Vietnam. Just because
Fair enough.
Vietnam's last, they
Fair
don't have
enough.
any points. They're not showing that they really belong in this. Like they do belong here because they qualified to this round, but they're still learning, and they have to go against the big teams, which Australia is one of those. I don't know if they can score against an Australia side.
I don't want to abruptly interrupt, but I think we should go to the next continents, and it's been like 30 minutes we
Oh,
spent on Asia alone.
yeah, we can do that. So we'll just finish with these matchups then. I won't do a scoreline. So United UAE versus Syria. I'm gonna say the UAE is gonna win that one. Iran should beat Iraq. Do you agree with me with those?
For now, yes.
And then we've got Australia against Oman. Australia should win that one. Japan, Saudi Arabia. I'm gonna say a draw. However, I think Japan does have the edge, being that they're home. But I'm gonna go with a draw. China and Vietnam. I think China's gonna. Well, I'm gonna say that one's a draw as well. China, I think, might win it, but I'm gonna say draw for that one. Iraq and Lebanon should be another good game. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a win for Iraq. I think that they're underperforming a little bit right now, but they're gonna come back up.
Hmm.
Iran should beat the UAE, I believe, and then South Korea should beat Syria.
Okay, except for China, Vietnam, I don't agree of the tie. I'm pretty sure China will win, but we do not have time to go on political stuff, reasons
No.
and shit. So I propose we move to the second continent, South America, aka CONMEBOL.
Yes. Um.
So, Sam, it's your time.
Okay. So this one's weird, interesting because it's only one round, and all the teams play each other twice in a giant round robin. Um. We've had some interesting results. Like Ecuador's been doing pretty good. That they've really been surprising. Let's go. So the scores from this last match
Match day 13 and
month.
14.
Hmm?
Match day 13 and 14, yes?
I believe so. Yeah. Or was it 15? No, 15's coming up. Okay, yeah, it was 13 and 14. So we've got that's October. Ecuador beat Venezuela 1-0. We had Chile win in Paraguay 1-0. Brazil beat Colombia 1-0. Peru beat Bolivia 3-0. Argentina beat Uruguay 1-0. And then Bolivia beat Uruguay 3-0 in a surprise. Peru was able to beat Venezuela 2-1. Colombia and Paraguay drew at 0-all. Argentina and Brazil was 0-all game. And then Ecuador beat Chile 2-0.
That's a lot of nothing, which is itself is an ironic statement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, for the second biggest continent in terms of palmarès, you expect more goals from them, and still
Right.
you have a lot of matches where at least one team does not score.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that 10 fake Italians or what?
I think it just shows how tough South America is, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of countries wouldn't survive in those qualifiers.
Like it looks like South America's been more defensive this year than most years. Like usually, like you said, you're used to seeing a lot of goals and stuff. But it looks like they've really started looking at the defense. Like most of the teams, at least.
Yeah, it's true that there was one statement that Argentina struggles to produce defenders. They
Mm-hmm.
mainly produce midfielders and forwards, and they always struggles with the defensive sector at home.
Mm-hmm.
And taking into account that they have technically close cultures, but not that much. They maybe have the same. Maybe all 10 countries have the same problem while forming youth players. And that maybe
Yeah.
explain why they have a drastic change, like you just explained right now. Uh,
I think it's just from a a tactics standpoint. They've noticed in the last World Cups that teams have been getting more and more defensive. And so even though they have the offensive power already and they've been on the offensive most of these teams have been an offensive powerhouse for so long, they've realized that they need to start playing pretty defensive now too, because that's kind of how the game's been changing during the modern era. Don't get me wrong, you still need a bunch of offense, but because of how much offense they produce, they don't need to worry about that as much as they do their defense at the moment.
that's
I
fair.
mean, you could just look at the 2014 World Cup when Brazil lost to Germany. They have the power to, but they didn't have the defense to stop the Germans.
Mm, to be fair, your statement is both right and wrong about 2014 Brazil. There was something I can't even explain today what happened to that match. I think nobody can explain what happened to that match. But it's partly linked to Neymar's being injured, but that's past. And
Right.
now wall of even South America didn't even manage to ever to be a good rival to Europe during the last World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe yeah, you are right. Maybe they try to get more defensive so they can resist us more. But
Um,
it's true that even now this group is maybe the hardest qualifiers out there.
oh, for sure. So Brazil and Argentina have already qualified.
Yes, true. As expected, both countries already managed to
Right.
settle their tickets way before the deadline.
Yeah. So there's two more automatic qualifier spots left, and then one playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are only 2.5 spots left for 8 countries, which is starting to get very intense.
And the fact that there's like Venezuela is the only one that really has an outside chance. All the other 7 countries in there still have a pretty good chance of qualifying directly. Ecuador has the best chance with taking that third spot. I think all they need is like 4 points or something like that.
They are 6 points ahead of Colombia and Peru. So 6 points ahead of the big group. I mean
With
the
what, like 4 match days left?
yes. Therefore, what I meant is that look, from Colombia to Bolivia, there are
Hmm.
only a 2 points gap. And if you include
Oh yeah,
Paraguay, it's 4 points. So
yeah.
the fourth and the ninth, uh, it's like a big compacted tie, a big rush that will fight hard until the end, and we can't really predict
Hmm.
which one of those countries will come out of top on top.
Right.
And even to the last match day, I remember during match day 18 for 2018, um, each time a goal was scored, the ranks were moving so fast. It was like you just took some pieces of a puzzle, you check the box, and you just look at it after you check it. And to the last minute, the countries that will qualify was totally different. And that's maybe the magic of those qualifiers, or maybe
Oh,
the
for sure.
tragicness at some point for some others.
For sure. Uruguay is really struggling though compared to what they usually do. With them being, I mean, yeah, they're in the mix, but you'd think that they'd be where Ecuador is right now with 23 points.
Exactly, especially when they started the qualifiers at that spot, they were before the summer, they were maybe third or fourth in the qualifiers,
Hmm.
and
Right.
out of all those 6 losses, 4 of them are just their last 4 matches. Like they come from 4-4-2 to 4-4-6 in only the gap of 2 months.
Oh, you can kind of do the same with Peru, but the opposite. They were in like ninth or 10th, I believe, after a couple of match days, and then the last 4 or so they've really started winning, and that's why they're in fifth right now.
Yeah, as expected from my video, Peru are a mid-ranked team and are in contention with Chile for the playoff spot for now. But as I said just now, the qualifiers are still running, and anybody, even Paraguay, could even qualify on a good run. But yeah,
Yeah.
Uruguay,
By the way, they're even on points with Colombia right now,
yes, that's true.
not Chile.
And but yeah, Ecuador, which even in the Copa Americas they were not performing that well. It's true that they really have done a good qualifiers for now. It's true that they are very very close to qualify, which is surprising considering they are maybe one of the poorest teams right now in terms of skill. So it's very
Yeah.
impressive performance from them, unexpected.
Oh, for sure.
They will to think they will come back already since the 2014 World Cup, where they were quite good actually, but not enough to go to the knockout stage.
I
But
think
yeah,
resilient is the word you're looking for.
woo,
I think resilient is the word you're looking for.
yeah, surely. But one team, but it's true to say that Uruguay is are underperforming right now. But when you think about it, they missed the 2006 World Cup, and I think they were in the playoff for 2010. The,
I don't remember.
I think it is they just qualify for the intercontinental playoff. So it's both a yes and a no, saying they underperform since they are still mid-rank team for
Yeah.
now. But yeah, to say that Bolivia is still in race, it's thanks to their home matches actually.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know, But Bolivia have probably the best definition of home advantage.
Oh, for sure. I did know this just because of the elevation that they make teams play in when
Yeah,
they're at home.
I don't know how much fits it make for you, but it's like 3 kilometers uh, um, higher than the sea, and so most countries and players are just suffocating after 20 minutes on the pitch.
Right. If you think Estadio Azteca is bad, Bolivia's is worse.
What do you mean?
Estadio Azteca in Mexico?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty high up there, and a lot of people, at least in North America, always talk about how that's a really hard place to play just because of the elevation. But Bolivia, where they make their national teams play at home, that's even worse because it's even higher up.
True, true. So yeah, it's not that surprising that they beat Uruguay 3-0. Maybe the scoreline is surprising, but Bolivia winning at home should never be taken as a surprise.
No, Bolivia's problem is their away matchups because they show when they play away that they're not the greatest team. They're just
Yeah.
able to handle the elevation at home better than most teams can.
They used to produce 2 or 3 good generations as they qualified a few times for the World Cup. The last one was in your country in 1994. But yeah, it's true that Bolivia, most players plays in their national championship. So of course they are only so when they play in a different area, they lose their advantage and they also play in something they are not used to because maybe if in one case if you don't have enough oxygen you can't make sport, but for them they have too much of oxygen too, and it might be also a negative effect on them on the opposite end.
Hmm.
But yeah, when you only play within your league and your league is from a undeveloped, it's true that your global level is not that high. So yeah, at least they got to stay in race for now, which is very good from them. The only country that is sad that saddens me is Venezuela.
Yeah, they're the only country in CONMEBOL to never qualify for the World Cup,
Or
and
you
it looks like
know,
that's going to
we can say
continue.
South America at this point because all South American countries in CONCACAF are already out of the qualifiers.
Right, but there's still South American countries that have never made it to the World Cup still.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
Venezuela is the only one in CONMEBOL that has never made it to the World Cup.
Yeah, you are right. So instead of just giving all the numbers, maybe we can just predict if some teams will make it or not on the
Sure.
next 2 match days.
I think Ecuador will in the next two. It might take a third one, but I think in the next two they will qualify. I'm really liking what I see from Peru. I think they're going to get ahead of Colombia. Um, but I don't know if they're going to stay ahead of Chile. So that
Um,
those three right now are battling for that automatic playoff spot. I think Uruguay. I don't know if they're going to qualify automatically, but they have a chance of making it to the playoffs again.
for my part, I don't think Peru will pass Colombia as Colombia will play at home against Peru for match day 15. And except if Peru outperforms them on the pitch, I think Colombia will at least got the draw or even the win, even so they are under they lost a bit of their skill since some month. But
Mm.
I think Colombia will stay ahead of Peru because after Colombia, Peru will have to play against Ecuador, and as we have seen, Ecuador has something to be afraid in those qualifiers.
Mhm.
So I think that Ecuador will maybe lost at home against Brazil, but maybe they will try to they will make their best to at least get a win against Peru and try to get their tickets back. But it will be either they got at least a point in Peru, or either they will lose both matches and the gap ahead of the others we just tighten, and maybe maybe Colombia will make like a comeback on them at 3 points
Okay.
behind. Those it will be hard. Like Argentina have to play Chile and Colombia, so I think Ecuador will lost both matches, but they will still be ahead like of 3 points maximum. Those qualifiers are very hardcore to
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think we can move on to Africa now.
Okay.
So we done Asia, we done South Africa, now we are no, no, fuck.
South America.
America. Now we are to Africa, the first
CAF.
continent of humans.
Yeah. So we're still waiting on the draw for this final round, but we can at least go through the groups.
Yeah, we can mention the 10 teams that won their respective groups.
Yeah. So we have Algeria beating Burkina Faso as far as standings by 2 points. Burkina Faso really put up a good fight. I was hoping for them. They didn't make it. Algeria just seemed to be the better team.
Algeria was the best, was the favorites as they are the current African champions. So of course they have to win this group, especially when they win by greater margins about against
Yeah.
Djibouti and Niger than Burkina Faso was able to. But the Algerians were very in a difficult situation when Burkina Faso was very offensive during the last match day, and Algeria were close to be eliminated at home on match day 6, and it will be a national uh, tragedy if that would happen. So at least they got the draw, a very spectacular 2-2 draw, which really got the feelings of a group final, and Algeria totally deserved their qualification for the playoff, but sad for Burkina Faso, which have, as you said, put a good fight.
And both teams were undefeated in all of qualifying. Algeria with 4 wins and 2 draws. Burkina Faso with 3 wins and 3 draws.
Yeah, yeah, South American qualifiers are very hardcore, but the African qualifiers are maybe the most tragic qualifiers
Oh, for
out of
sure.
all six
Just
continents.
because of how many good teams there are versus how many spots are available.
I will agree that there are many teams with a good potential and level, but as we have seen the recent World Cups, I'm not even sure. Like they got no teams reach the knockout stage, and even in the previous tournaments, out of
Mhm.
5 teams, only one or two could ever manage to pass the first round. So no,
Yeah.
they have a good teams to that are able to qualify, but sadly those teams can't go far on the other end.
So continuing along, Group B, we have Tunisia that led the group with 13 points. Equatorial Guinea, another good fight. They were able to put up 11 points. Equatorial Guinea really had a chance, but they with their did they draw? Yeah, with their draw against Mauritania, that let Tunisia just take over the group.
Yeah, Equatorial Guinea was not one of the teams you were really waiting for in that group. Maybe more Zambia, to be fair. Like Equatorial Guinea and Zambia were more like teams you see as equals.
Mm-hmm.
But when Tunisia lost against Guinea in match day 5, they really was starting to sweat because Guinea was ahead in the ranking, I think. And happily Tunisia won, so they took back the first spot again to qualify. But if Equatorial Guinea even choked on Mauritania, you it's like maybe they would have taken the spot. Oh, not no, 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 they wouldn't have taken the spots due to goal difference. But Tunisia was very close to get robbed by Guinea on the last match day when you think about it. So there really was um, there re- a risky moment for them.
Yeah. Um, so in Group C, we had Nigeria with 13 points and Cape Verde with 11 points. Cape Verde really put up a good fight. I think they were just as surprising as Equatorial Guinea as far as how good they were. Cape Verde to me is definitely good enough to be in this round. But they really showed why they are good enough to even advance past this.
Mm, I think this group is maybe Cape Verde just announced to Africa and maybe the world that they are gaining their current golden generation back. Because nearly 10 years ago, Cape Verde were in a gold era and they were doing successful campaigns for the AFCON, and even in the World Cup qualifiers they were always going quite far. And they just after 2015 they started to get very bad, and seeing them nearly reaching the knockouts for the World Cup just proves that they are going to be very competitive again. And yeah, we should expect big from them in the AFCON from future editions. I'm pretty sure about that.
Mhm.
In Nigeria, it was just a formality to them to just take the top spot of the group.
Right. Next, we had the Group D, which was by far the toughest group as far as the top two teams is concerned, with Cameroon over Cote d'Ivoire 15 points to 13.
That's actually funny because it's the only group that I didn't predict it correctly in my African video, which is, by the way, my most viewed video on the channel with over 10k views. JJ for me, yay! But yeah, I as you mentioned, that group was the strongest by far. Not because there was Mozambique and Malawi, but yeah, because having Cameroon and Ivory Coast in the same group was a very bad lucky draw. It's the equivalent of Portugal and Italy in playoffs of Europe. Like those are very
Yeah,
strong teams that marked down the World Cup history with very good players from both sides, both histories, and it just a bad thing that happened. And of course, only one of them could survive, and that surviving team was Cameroon.
yeah. I don't really have anything much to add to that. I think both of them made it to the World Cup last cycle, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Ivory Coast actually failed in playoffs. Not playoffs, it was groups for the last round in Africa. But
Okay, but they
no,
were
no,
definitely there in 2014.
no. Both teams failed in 2018. They were last seen in 2014 for both of them.
Okay. Next, we have Group E,
Mali.
and there was no. Mali was just overall the best team of those four, with winning with 16 points, 5 wins, 1 draw, and Uganda getting second with only 9. Like they had it easy.
I don't anything special to say about Mali because it's maybe one of the weakest teams that made it to the knockout. But it Mali is like this team that is more or less among the top teams since like the test last years. But since they are like 9th or 10th, you don't hear about them a lot. But they have a lot of good players in French football, and they have quite the potential to make it the World Cup. And their undefeated run in round two is just a proof that they can do something. And even so, they are not one of the favorites to pass and qualify to the World Cup. They are not a team to underestimate, especially when they actually didn't conceded a goal. They conceded no goal. So, not a favorite, but a very good outsider at least.
I believe they're the only team left in Africa that has never made it to a World Cup.
I'm pretty sure you are right on that fact.
The only other one would be the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
They actually did
They've
it.
never made it to. Hmm?
They actually did it maybe in the 50s or 60s, but when
Right.
they were known as Zaire.
Yeah, they were known as Zaire at that time, and so they've never. The DRC has never made it to the World Cup as the DRC. They've only ever made it as Zaire.
It's still the same country.
Yeah, but the name change. I was just mentioning it just from the name change. All right, so next we have Group F. Egypt sailed pretty much. I think they struggled a tiny bit at first, but they didn't lose any games. They won with 14 points. Gabon got second in the group with 7. They tied with Libya. They got second because of goal differential with the -1 versus Libya's -3.
I don't not have anything to say. Like they totally dominated their group. Like they have twice the number of points as Gabon or Libya. Eh, they were just ahead of everyone in their group. So as most people predicted, they logically passed on the next stage. And Gabon, Libya, and Angola, all it was all a fight between each other to gain ranks in the FIFA rankings. And to be like, I was the best team that did not advance. So nothing. All teams, the three other teams were like have their potential, but they didn't have a chance against Egypt.
Next group. This one has a little bit of controversy in it. So Ghana ended up making it past South Africa. They both tied with 13 points. Ghana had the goal. They even tied with the goal differential. Um, I think it was just a head-to-head or by goals for. Ghana has one more goals for than South Africa, so that might be that. However, I believe it's under review right now whether South Africa or Ghana are going to make it because of some sort of thing that happened, or is that from two different countries?
Actually, there is a problem about the referee. The South African Federation has high suspicions that the referee was bribed during that match. They didn't targeted the Ghanese Federation, but after South Africa made allegation about the referee, the Ghanese Federation just started to answer South Africa while not being directed by the accusation, and started to make fun of the country of Nelson Mandela, and which is very suspicious when they were not the targets of the complaint at first.
Right.
So FIFA must settle this decision in the upcoming days. So even so, for now, Ghana is F qualified for the next round. It's useless to talk more about this group as we are not entirely sure which one of them will go to the knockouts.
Right. They may even have to. They might even replay that match.
It's actually possible that they even have to replay that match, as South Africa even got to replay a match for against Senegal in the Afghan qualifiers at some point recently.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we had Senegal winning Group H with 16 points. Togo was next with 8 points. Um, Pretty easy one for Senegal. I mean, Togo kind of was there, but like their golden era has already ended.
Didn't you mean Congo instead of Togo?
What?
I'm pretty sure you just said Togo was there, but not much. Didn't you mean
Yeah, Togo,
Congo?
Togo got second in the group.
Yeah. Ah, I thought we were talking about Congo that were last on the group.
Oh,
No, my bad.
um,
My bad.
were you thinking of the other Congo?
No, no, I'm talking about the ex-French Congo. You know, the ones that got no wins in Group H.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there's not really much to talk about. Senegal's definitely the better team of
Yeah,
those four.
it's kind of like Egypt. They were just far ahead of everyone in their group. They literally got twice the points as Togo, kind of like Egypt.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mohamed. No, Mohamed Salah from Egypt. No, I forgot the name of the player in Liverpool. I have a white hole in
Oh,
my
for
head.
Egypt?
No, Senegal. The big player from Senegal in Liverpool,
Oh,
Sadio
I don't
Mane.
know.
Sadio Mane. Yes.
Okay.
So wait, kinda like his colleague Mo Salah, Sadio Mane just lead his team to the knockouts, and hopefully they will make it to the World Cup, because right now with Algeria and Nigeria, they are the the top three teams on the continent, and those are my favorites to qualify. Actually, maybe Senegal is my favorite African team right now. To be fair.
Okay. I guess we'll move right along to Group I. Morocco, 6 wins, no draws, no losses. They get 18 points. Guinea-Bissau is next, second in the group with 6 points. Guinea-Bissau is an interesting one. Uh, I mean, I guess we knew it was going to be kind of tough because of their rival with Guinea. But Morocco, easy, cruised. They did get 1 goal against those. So Mali, I believe, is the only team to qualify to the next round without conceding a goal.
Yeah, Morocco were close, but they at least scored 20 goals, and I'm pretty sure they are the best offensive teams in this round.
Yeah.
But at least they managed to get 6 wins in 6 matches, so they got the maximum number of points. Even so, it's a very weak group. Not every team can manage to do that performance. So we can say that Morocco is in a very good shape and maybe a team that will be very dangerous to be drawn against in the last round of the African
I
qualifiers.
mean, Morocco did just win 4-0 against, I believe it was Palestine yesterday in the Arab Cup. So they're still rocking pretty good.
And now that you mentioned it, this isn't their main lineup. I think they only send the players in their national league and not all the best internationals they have. So actually, they are in very
Right.
good shape and they really have a shot to qualify again for the World Cup.
Yep. Yep. And I guess that leaves us to our last group, Group J, Democratic Republic of the Congo. They won it with 11 points. Benin was a surprise. They were second with only 10 points. I'm really happy for the DRC. They're one of my teams in Africa, for sure. So I'm really glad that they're able to make it to this last and final stage before the World Cup again.
As I have said in my African video, Group G will have been we'll see this Congo as a favorite, but they underperformed recently in the African Cup. And actually, this Group G was very interesting because you have two surprises of the last African Cup of Nations, Benin and Madagascar, that both reached the quarterfinals for the first time of their history. And I expected both teams to very give a fight to Congo. While I was correct for Benin, as they only are 1 point behind Congo and were close to qualify, I'm very deceived. I'm a bit saddened by the fact that Madagascar could only got 4 points in 6 matches and got last. Like they got a very good potential after the AFCON, but they totally messed up. And at least I was right for the other surprise. So, but it's possible that Congo will not advance because during the last match day against Benin, while they were leading 2-0, they made a fourth substitution in the extra time, additional time. Even so, it wouldn't have impacted the match and the fact they will qualify much. They
Mm-hmm.
still transgressed one of the most important FIFA rules about substitutions, and they, like Ghana, are in FIFA. How can I say this? That they are still looked by FIFA, and it's even so. I'm pretty sure they will qualify still. It's possible that they will either replay the match or that they will be disqualified and Benin will take their spot for the playoffs.
Yeah. Do you
Uh,
want to try to predict the 5 teams making it automatically? or should we just leave it since there hasn't even been a draw yet on what teams to make through?
I'd rather leave that for next time because predicting which team will qualify when we don't even know the matchups is not stupid but close.
That's fair. All
I,
right. So I think that'll do it for Africa then.
yeah, for now, why we just look how African nations were, and I mean it's even more difficult when two groups out of 10 are not even fully confirmed to be official due to FIFA checkings.
Right.
So now I propose that we look at the most recent continent due to the draws, Oceania.
I think so. Do you want to start this one?
It's my turn? Okay. So recently, after multiple backups tentative, OFC was finally able to hold the draw. So sadly, two of the 11 OFC nations, Samoa and American Samoa, withdrew due to COVID-related issues, as they can't go out of the country due to national policy. And we only have 9 nations, so Oceania is actually the smallest qualifiers for the 2022 World Cup.
Usually it's South America, but it's Oceania this
Well,
year.
that's why I'm mentioning it for this time.
Yep.
So they have a similar stuff like before, but but this time it will look like an OFC Nations Cup compacted in Qatar. So it's not like a qualifiers that we usually have. It's really like they made a continental cup, and the champions are going to intercontinental playoffs. As they will play, all the qualifiers will be played within 10 days, which is a bit longer than a season in Greenland. Just to say how small it is. It's very exceptional to have a qualifiers played within a month. And first, it will start March 14th, with a qualification match between Tonga, the lowest ranked team in OFC, and Cook Islands, which is the only team without a rank in FIFA. The winner of this single match will advance to the group stage, where they will join our first group, Solomon Islands, Tahiti, Vanuatu, and then the qualification match winner. So do you want to make a
Um,
prediction?
the qualification match winner is going to be playing Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, and Fiji.
No,
Oh,
no, no,
I'm
no.
sorry. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I'm looking at the wrong
No,
thing.
no, no, no.
No, you're right.
Solomon Islands, Tahiti, and Vanuatu.
Yes.
Or maybe
So
you.
I don't think the qualification match winner is going to make it past. So after the group stage, there's going to be a semifinal and a final and a playoff. So the top two teams in each group make it to the next round. I think it's going to be in Group A. It's going to be the Solomon Islands and Tahiti. I believe Vanuatu was put in a good group, and they can definitely make some noise. But I don't think they're going to make it past Tahiti in the standings.
For myself, I think that Group A is very low to Oceanian standards. As you said, Vanuatu are in very good position and can try to make an upset, but even in this scenario, I don't think they will. Solomon Islands are maybe the best team outside of New Zealand right now. They are very good to Oceanian standards, and they deserve to be pot A during the draw. So I think they will take the top spot. And Tahiti is still a team to recognize on the continent, despite the fact they lost a lot of skill since 10 years ago when they won the Nations Cup and go to the Confederations Cup the year after. But they are still there with a good team, and I think they will at least qualify as second position.
Yeah. We do got to remember that Solomon Islands do have a player that he's being treated as a wonder kid in Oceania because his name is Rafael Ai. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
I don't know about him. Explain.
Um, so back in 2019, because that was the last time that any Oceanian team has had a club competition. He just turned 18 recently, so he's just now eligible to play for other teams. But he was stuck on Solomon Islands until then. For his team, he made 34 appearances and had 69 goals.
Oh shit.
But then again, that was a Solomon Islands club in a Solomon Islands league. So we don't know how good he is, but with those numbers, he could possibly, and this is I know I'm foreshadowing a little bit, but he
Eh,
could possibly give the Solomon Islands a good chance at beating New Zealand.
I'm not sure it will be able to beat New Zealand, but even for Oceanian standards, having 69 goals, well, that youth is more than impressive. For the
And in
continent,
34 matches, so he was getting more than a goal a match on average.
yes, so that really shows how poor the quality is on this continent. But even on those standards, it's very impressive, and maybe he can make something with the national team on those qualifiers. But we will see in March 2022.
In
But
fact,
with
he
that,
was averaging 2 goals a game.
wow. So yeah, I think we will finally have to get a chance at him, especially when that group draw was very weak for national team, as only
Yeah.
Tahiti can really give a serious opposition to his country.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that leaves us with Group B, that which has New Zealand, New Caledonia, Fiji, and Papua New Guinea. This is basically the group of death.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Even for Oceania, it
Yeah,
deserves to be a group of death. How is this draw actually possible when all of those teams outside of Fiji are able to reach the semi-finals in nearly each Nations Cup?
I don't know. I mean, I think it just has to do with the fact that there was only 9 teams that could be drawn instead of 11.
True, 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 true.
Because wasn't there supposed to be like a round before this round or something?
Usually, yes, in both OFC Nations Cup and World Cup qualifiers, usually there is only one preliminary round spot, like the top seven is already in the group stage, and the eighth spot is disputed between all the remaining countries. Usually there are four of them and maybe one associate member, and those play the preliminary round, and the winner gets to advance but as a seed 8. But that's what I said at the beginning, like the Oceanian qualifiers this year are exactly an OFC Nations Cup.
Yeah,
Like it's exactly the same format. It's just that it isn't played in Oceania but in Qatar.
right. I think we can easily say that New Zealand's going to win the group.
Yeah, without any doubt. It is by far the best country on the continent. We don't even have to explain why. Like the
They're the
only
only Oceanian team that's made it to a World Cup.
for a fact, but also they are the only team that have a semi-professional league.
Yeah, they have one team in the
Australia
Australian League,
A
but
League.
then right,
The
which I believe it's the Wellington Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken.
It's Wellington Phoenix, and but yeah, they also have the Wellington Phoenix Reserve playing in the Premiership in New Zealand. So they have like two teams of Wellington Phoenix, but the one in the National League is the B team, and the main one plays in Australia.
Yeah. Um, the other the other spot for the next round that's going to be hotly contested between the other 3 nations. I don't know if Fiji's going to be able to make it, but I could see either Papua New Guinea or New Caledonia really, with Fiji having an outside chance.
Actually, Fiji can have a shot at it, despite the fact they are the lowest team in the group in terms of capacity to do it. Like New Zealand for sure will top their group and go straight away to the semifinals. And I think the second qualifying spot will be like a three ways. battle because both New Caledonia and Papua New Guinea have the potential to go far in those qualifiers, and one of those nations, only one of those nations must pass. The other must fall. So Fiji can totally join the fight, but they
Oh
are
yeah.
a step behind New Caledonia and Papua New Guinea.
Like I could see all three of them being stuck on 4 points, them losing both their games, all three of them losing both their games to New Zealand, and then drawing each other,
Yeah,
and then just being
you're
based
right.
on
It's
goal difference.
possible that their losses against New Zealand might decide who will get to advance, but I'm sure that New Caledonia and Papua New Guinea will be tied only between themselves. And at the end, I hope and I think New Caledonia will advance, but Papua New Guinea are a very strong opponent for them, so I will say it's like a 50-50. So
I'm
oh,
gonna go with I'm gonna give New Caledonia the edge, but I wouldn't be surprised if Papua New Guinea was in there.
so yeah, for the following, we're going with New Caledonia seed 2 because there are also the semifinals in March.
Yeah,
So okay, so for now we are starting with Solomon Islands and Tahiti. Okay, so the first semifinals will be Solomon Islands
it would be Solomon Islands.
New Caledonia.
Yes,
In this scenario, I will hope for the surprise, but as you said, as Solomon Islands are making a very good striker, I will go for Solomon Islands.
yeah. I'm gonna go with the Solomon Islands as well. New Caledonia has a good chance, kind of similar to how Fiji does getting out of the group stage. I think New
Yeah,
Caledonia has that kind of chance to Solomon
starting the
Islands.
semifinals, anyone can beat anyone in Oceania. In group stage, you
Well,
can
you say that,
predict, but not the knockout stage.
but then the next group is, or the next match would be New Zealand versus Tahiti, and we both know we're gonna choose New Zealand over that.
Yeah, and sadly, Tahiti isn't what they are from 10 years ago. So yeah, even so, I'm French and I will root for both of them and New Caledonia. Tahiti have no chance against New Zealand. So New Zealand will go to the final straight away.
And that would be a Solomon Islands New Zealand final. I'm still going to go with New Zealand, but it's going to be a closer match than people might think.
I'm not very sure because when it's the OFC Nations Cup or random matches, New Zealand plays, but like it's friendlies and they don't very care a lot. Like they still win, but not that much because they don't give 100%. But since it's qualifiers, I'm pretty sure they will go at full speed. And even if Solomon have some promising players, I'm pretty sure they will get roasted by New Zealand. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure New Zealand will do like they always do. They will roll on everyone by like 5 goals differential, maybe less for one match or two, but they will just destroy everyone because they really want that qualifying spot.
Right. But I don't know if they're going to win by more than like 1 or 2 goals against the Solomon Islands, was what I was getting at.
It's possible, but for me it's unlikely.
Yeah. And that would mean that New Zealand would have to play the CONCACAF
For
team that makes it into the playoffs.
Yes, so at the end we both agree that New Zealand should be the team that will win the Oceanian zone and qualify for the intercontinental playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads us to Europe. Do you want to make the resume or should I go myself?
Sure. So there was, I don't know if we should go through all the games because there's just too many games just because of how the qualifiers work for them.
Oh,
Um, we can just go through the groups, I guess. So UEFA Europe, everybody knows this. It's the one group. It's the one confederation that everybody watches if they're gonna watch
who
something.
doesn't? Who doesn't?
I I don't know. The only people that don't are the ones that just care about their own confederation and aren't in Europe. Honestly.
Fair.
So we can start with Group A, and we had a surprise in Serbia automatically qualifying and knocking Portugal into the knockout rounds
Yeah,
of the qualifiers.
on the last match day.
On the last match, they won what 2-1? Was it?
Yeah, 2-1. It was another tie because they tied 2-2 at first with some debatable referee decision. And Portugal, with that another tie at home 1-1, was still in first place, and they were going to the World Cup. But due to a very late goal from Serbia, like I remember watching it live on the last minute in the extra time, it was a shock, even for myself that have seen my country losing to them in the Euro 2016 final. It was a shock, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like Serbia have been undefeated in those qualifiers, so they really deserve that spot. And by beating Portugal, they got 4 points out of 6 possible. They really were good in those qualifiers,
Yeah.
and they made it to the second World Cup. So GG for them. But it's very disappointing for Portugal that have such a strong team and still they got outplayed like that.
Yeah. I will mention Republic of Ireland and Luxembourg tied in third place with 9. The Ireland had the goal differential with a +3 versus Luxembourg's -10. I think Ireland kind of underperformed a tiny bit, but then when you have Serbia and Portugal, you're gonna not do so hot.
Yeah.
All right, I
Then
think that leaves us to Group B, where we had
I
Spain.
just want to add
Oh,
something on Group A
yeah, go ahead.
because Luxembourg, like this little country, my northern neighbors, um, this campaign was the best they've done ever. This is their new records. Like if the qualifying campaign for the World Cup 2018, where they got 6 points, also in Group A, was already their best campaign. They now make a second record in a row by winning 3 matches and losing only 5. They got 9 points in 8 matches. So more points than matches. You know, that's very something that this country is improving and nobody cares. That's what is sad because they are so small. They only have 500k people, the same population of Portland, and they are doing so great progress. I just couldn't let it slip without talking about it on this
That's right.
podcast.
Give credit where credit is due, man.
Okay, now
All
we
right,
can go to Group B.
that's fine. So Spain won the group with 19 points. They believe played Sweden. Did they play Sweden? Yeah, I think they played
Yeah, yeah,
Sweden on the
it
last
was
match
Sweden.
day.
It was Sweden.
And who got second and 15, so they're going to the playoffs. And Greece got third with 10 points, so they were kind of there. But Sweden was just too good this year for Greece to try to catch up to them. Spain did have a scare though with Sweden. Sweden and Spain were. I mean, if Sweden would have won that match, I think they would have made it instead, and Spain would have had to go to the playoffs as well.
Um, to be fair, Spain deserve to be in the World Cup. They were largely the better team. They have the better squad, and obviously they were the team to make the World Cup on this group. Sweden was the only other team that were at least decent to make it top two. So it was obvious that they have to make the at least the knockout stage. But I'm pretty compared to what they did in the late 2010s, like 2018 and since the arrival on the Nations League, Sweden have very lost some grace. Like they lost 3 games in out of 8. They only won half of them, and even so, they're decent, but not they're not that strong anymore. And for
Yeah.
Greece, no, they are still not good yet. They are doing some progress. Some players are starting to rise, but the national team in itself is just the boring average team that gets some win and gets some losses.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think that brings us to Group C.
Another upset.
Yep. So Switzerland topped the group with 18 points. They went ahead of Italy, who got second with 16 points, and then Northern Ireland in third with 9. I'm only mentioning the third place teams because of the playoff spot being in this for the second in the standings. Italy could not win against Northern Ireland. All they needed was a win, and they couldn't even do that. I believe they drew 1-1.
Yes, Northern Ireland at home managed to get a tie from the European champions Italy, which given the World Cup slot to Switzerland. So yeah, Northern Ireland helped Switzerland qualify.
They drew 0-0, actually, not 1-1.
So yeah, both Switzerland and Italy were undefeated in that group, but due to Italy's lack of skills against Northern Ireland, they sadly slipped away and Switzerland just goes through.
Yeah.
Which is both logical and an upset because, I mean, Italy are European champions, so you expect them to go to the World Cup. But on the other hand, many people, even today, even the people that I've seen Switzerland knock us in the Euro, underestimate Switzerland. Like, in the last 10 years, they beated world champions Spain in the 2010 World Cup in the opening match. World Cup 2014, they managed to reach the knockout stage and were only beaten 1-0 in extra time by Argentina, which made the final just after. Euro 2016, they only lost on penalties to Poland, which a good comeback. And also tied France, the future finalist of the tournament. In World Cup 2018, they tied with Brazil and also got eliminated by Sweden 1-0 only. And then
Yeah.
Euro 2020, you know the rest. They got to the quarterfinals and beat France, only to lose to Spain in on penalties. So yes, they are a very Switzerland is one of the most consistent teams in Europe right now.
Hmm. When was the last time they missed a World Cup?
If I'm not mistaken, it was either 2006 or it was somewhere. It was 1998. One of those two.
Okay, so they had a somewhat recent bad qualifying, like Italy did. Okay.
We can argue about that, yes. I'm 100% sure they weren't in 1998, but in 2006 or in 2002, I'm not sure if they made it or not.
Right, I believe that'll bring us to our next group.
Yes, my country, France.
They were able to pull it off and automatically qualify with 18 points. Ukraine ended up finishing second in the group with 12, and Finland just they lost. I don't know what happened to them. They were doing pretty good, but they got 11 points and they got third, so they can't make it anymore.
Alors, it's simple.
Congrats to Ukraine for coming back after what was it, 5 draws in a row?
Five, I think.
Yeah.
Or they made a lot of draws. But for Finland, it's simple. After we beat Kazakhstan on match day 7 and match day 8, we got to play Finland in their home. So of course we wanted to win because I mean we are world champions and we are like also European champions at that moment because we won the Nations League in October. So we are not here to just lose to Finland. I mean it's a qualifying game, you must give everything you have. So obviously as we have the better team we beated them and because of us they missed out the World Cup to what I think is an awful Ukraine team. Like they got a lot of draws, but it also shows that Ukraine can't make the game. They can't make a good offensive gameplay. So for a group stage, it works. But when they will play the knockout games for the playoffs, I'm pretty sure that's what will make their run end against Scotland.
We can talk about the playoffs later. We'll get through the rest of the groups first, I think, though.
Yeah, well, I was just talking about Ukraine, but for my country, it was an obligation to finish first.
Yeah, it's France. You expect the big teams: France, England, Spain, Portugal, Italy, to all be first.
Especially when we are world champion and now European champions with the Nations League.
Yeah. All right. That leaves us to Group E. Belgium won the group, so they automatically qualify with 20 points. Wales got second with 15 points. They made it to the playoff, and the Czech Republic also made it to the playoffs. But even though they got third in with 14 points, they were one of the best teams in the Nations League to get a spot in the playoffs. So they have a second chance.
And Estonia and Belarus were just here for the show.
Yeah.
Yes,
No surprise, it's Belgium. I think the surprise is Wales being over the Czech Republic, honestly. But they're so close in points that it's not a huge surprise to me.
I think Wales were better than Czech Republic in the last Euros, so maybe not that much. Even so, Czech Republic is starting to grow a good team. Apparently, some of the players are very starting
That's
to
true.
go huge.
Whereas Wales know that this might be Bale's final good year, and so they're trying real hard
Yeah,
to make
but
it.
as CWV explained to us, Wales are on a very good streak at home, undefeated since many matches, and they did in those qualifiers. They won 3 home matches, no, 2 home matches, and tied 2 home matches. They are undefeated at home. Even Belgium couldn't beat them in Cardiff. So their undefeated status at home very helps them make the shot at the knockout stage. Even if they ended third, they would have advanced still because both Wales and Czech Republic were contestants for the repêchage.
Yes. Whichever one of those two didn't make it, we're going to make it to the playoffs no matter what.
Yes, so Group E was like the group you were assured with 3 teams advancing.
I think that brings us to Group F, which
Yes,
kind of had a similar situation.
yes, similar situation.
So Denmark won the group with 27 points. They were really rocking. They lost to Scotland in the last matchup.
Yes,
Otherwise, they would have been 10-0-0.
that was a surprise,
Us,
but they didn't care that much.
yeah. Scotland got second with 23 points. And then Israel and Austria tied with third at 16 points. Israel uh, with the advantage with the goals for, I believe, because
Most
they're both
goals,
on
better.
2 goals
We say better
difference.
offense in Europe, better offense, as they score more goals. But yeah, Austria managed to be repeshed with Czech Republic as Nations League,
Yes.
and Faroe Islands and Moldova were just here for show.
Yeah. Austria was the next best team along with the Czech Republic of the 2 spots that go to the Nations League winners, or the best teams in the Nations League. So Austria got that other spot with the
Despite
Czech
being
Republic,
fourth. But
despite being fourth and being behind Israel, which poor Israel, but
yes, what can we say that Denmark once again really did a very good qualifying campaign and totally deserved their top spot in the World Cup. But we can also say that Scotland didn't made such a very good qualifying campaign since a very long time.
yeah,
Like they did manage to get like 20 points in. I don't remember if it was 2014 or 2018, but 23 points. Like Scotland didn't manage to do that for a very long time, and so they're really going back on the international stage.
they're really trying hard anyway. Something noteworthy: Denmark and Scotland, their only losses were against each other, so they went 1-0-1 against each other in group play.
Well, they just proved they are the top teams in that group.
Scotland did get 2 draws though versus Denmark, having no draws.
Actually, I expected Israel and Austria to give a more difficult time to Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they kinda did. I mean, because they scored a lot of goals against them, but I didn't expected them to just stand 9 points, nearly 9 points behind Scotland. But at least they did put some good show despite not advancing. For Israel, I mean, Austria still managed to advance anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
All
else to
right,
say.
and I think that brings us to Group G, which was definitely the most exciting of all the groups, I think, as far as more than just two teams being able to
Oh,
make it.
yeah, that was maybe the group to follow. Like Netherlands were first of the group by only 2 points. I think that's one of the smallest margins you ever in Europe on the second team.
I believe so. It's like I think the other ones were like 3 points or four.
Yeah, that was one of the closed one groups, and Turkey even advanced on only on the last match day. Like
Yeah,
Norway was probably one of the teams that deserve a lot to advance, but sadly they didn't. And
yeah. I
during
would
all,
prefer to see Norway, Turkey, but Turkey did what they had to do to make it to the next round, and so did the Netherlands. The Netherlands didn't even know if they were going to qualify automatically on that last match day. It was only when they scored that second goal against Norway, I think that's when they really decided to breathe a bit of a sigh of relief.
yeah,
Um,
I think Ireland will
but they also learned against Montenegro when they drew against them 2-2 the match day before, after being up 2-0 on them.
yeah, for Netherlands are going little by little back on their tracks. Like we all remember how good they were in 2010 and 2014.
Mhm.
And just it just gone downhill. So seeing them have successful qualifying campaigns and starting to doing well again in competitions is it's kind of a fresh air. They are going little by little to be once again a very strong country to be afraid of.
Mhm.
Turkey, they managed to advance, so congratulations to them, but they are not one of the five favorites to qualify actually in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the
Right.
low teams. I can say I'm very sad for Ireland. So a very good player, but his national team can't go far on qualifiers.
And that brings us to Group H, which actually had the closest in the top. We had Croatia winning out in the group, 23 points. Russia got second with 22 points. And then Slovakia and Slovenia, they had 14 points each. Slovakia with the goal differential with the +7 versus Slovenia's +1.
Yeah, on the last match day, Russia was first of the group and were about to qualify directly for their third World Cup in a row. And sadly, they conceded a non-goal in the last minute of the match. That just gives the spot right away to Croatia. And I'm pretty sure it's an heartbreaking moment for the country. And I think that it will be this frustration will be useful for the knockouts for Russia. Maybe it will help them qualify, but if they didn't, it will be a very hard moment to live in the Russian football history.
I will say that it shows that 2018 wasn't necessarily a fluke with Russia with how far they went. Um, Even though they did eventually get second place, they show that they do deserve to be at the top, especially against the Slovakia and Slovenia side that are consistently in World Cups as well.
I wouldn't argue that they didn't deserve the quarterfinals, but when you have seen the Euro 20 performance they did, they got out in the group stage with only 3 points. I'm not sure to say they are one of the top teams, but at least they deserve to be in the World Cup.
Yeah. Okay, next, I guess we have England that won out Group I with 26 points. Poland was in second with 20 points, and Albania third with 18 points.
You know
Pretty
what?
easy for England. Their hardest matchup was against Poland, but I don't think anybody thought that Poland would give them enough of a scare for them to not qualify automatically.
You know what they say? It's coming home. No, but no, there are nothing to say on England except that they scored nearly 14 goals. But when you take into account that they scored 15 of them against San Marino,
Yeah.
and I did not many things to say. Poland deserve to be two, even so I did not expect them to struggle that much against the likes of Albania or Hungary, actually.
Hmm.
But I think the only thing that disturbs me is that to see that Hungary wasn't able to at least give a real fight to Poland. Yes, yes, actually they did for it. They managed to have 4 points against Poland actually, but I think Hungary deserve really to qualify too because you remember their Euro 20? They were in the group of death and they
I do.
didn't
Yeah, they were in the
couldn't
group of
couldn't
death,
get out.
and they didn't make it out, did they? But they were really, really close to.
I think like Republic Czech, Hungary are starting to becoming a very good team, like they were in the past, reaching the World Cup final. I do remember.
Hmm.
So maybe it's Hungary. We should expect more from Hungary on the next qualifying campaigns, actually, and maybe even the Nations League, as they were one of the candidates to be repechage for the playoffs, as they were
Yeah.
just after Czech Republic and Austria.
Mhm. Also, congrats to Andorra. This might be their best qualifying.
I think you are true. No, I don't think you are true. I think some once or twice they managed to get like 7 or 9 points.
Okay, but
But
um,
scoring 8 goals is not something they can brag every time in qualifiers. So I guess we can at least give them that.
no, but San Marino, as sad as of a qualifying as it always is, didn't they score against England?
No, Poland.
Oh, they scored against Poland. Okay, but yeah, they still scored against a big side. So congrats to them for getting a goal this World Cup
Yes, at least
qualifiers.
we can say they have a success. So now we are with the last group of Europe.
And this is I think the most shocking as far as teams that make it. So Germany automatically qualified with 27 points. But then we have North Macedonia who made it to the playoffs on 18 points with Romania right behind them at 17 points. Um,
Mm,
North Macedonia really surprised. I think people really started looking at them when they beat Germany 2-1 in Germany and they came up ahead both times.
mm, Here what I have to say. As expected at first, Germany were to top the group without any issue, and they did. If you forgot the sadly loss against Macedonia, they topped the group, they dominated. It's expected from the diamond shaft.
Yeah,
But I have also two things to say. First, I think when Finland managed to qualify for the Euros, I expected them to be the next Iceland, as they qualify for the Euro, their first Euros, and then the first World Cup. But sadly, they missed out by little. And now that I think about it, North Macedonia just got the spotlight when they qualified for the Euros. They got out in first round, but at least they were there. And they got the spotlight for real this time when they beat Germany in qualifiers. And now they are in the playoffs. Why second? I think North Macedonia is actually doing the next Iceland moment.
yeah. I don't know if they're really that much better than Romania, but they definitely deserve to be in that spot for this qualifiers.
Totally. And Romania are still an average team. Like they are not strong, but not that bad too. They are like the mid-ranked team in qualifiers. So I say they did a good job and defended their colors perfectly. But as expected, they are not good enough to advance. And the last thing I will say is that Iceland golden era is already finished, and it saddens me a little because it
Yeah,
was good to see that little country among the Europe's top nations for a while.
yeah,
And this qualifying campaign just proved to us that it's already finished, and Iceland will um, become a low tier nation once again, and we will just see them as an easy team in qualifiers.
yeah. I will say though, with Iceland, I think partial the reason why they did so bad partially was because of the stuff that happened outside of the games. with certain players. I don't want to mention anything or name
Oh
any names, but
yes, you are right on
um,
that. You are right on that.
that definitely probably brought the team down as far as morale.
Well, it didn't happen at the beginning, so it was more the late games. They were already
Yeah,
in bad shape, but it did not
yeah.
help so.
Right. So
So
that brings us to
the
the
knockout
second
stage,
round.
path A, B, C.
Yep.
So you know what? I propose that we just predict the team that will make it out of those groups.
Okay. So we have Scotland against Ukraine and Wales against Austria. Wales has the home advantage both games. Scotland would have home advantage against Ukraine. Um, I think it's gonna be Scotland Wales, and I think Scotland is actually gonna beat Wales. I think Scotland's the better team, even though they're playing in Wales. They're gonna be playing Cardiff. I think Scotland is a little better. I'm gonna see. I think they're gonna beat Wales in the and make it on.
I do agree on the semi-finals. I think both British teams will make it out to the final, but even so, I rather see Scotland at the World Cup. I think Wales have the better team overall because one, they will play both games at home since it's a wall advantage, but also another point is that during the Euros, Wales have made a way better performance than Scotland, despite the fact
However,
Scotland was at
Scotland
home.
had a way better performance in the qualifiers than Wales did, especially when they had a Denmark that they had to play against.
It's true, it's totally true, and you are right. But Scotland played two more games.
Hmm.
So it's not easy to really compare both countries, especially when one of them got Belgium in it and the other got only Denmark as a top nation. Top nation that even so
Right,
they
but
made
Denmark was
this
the first nation to also the first nation to qualify from Europe. Were they
true.
not?
But Denmark, even though they made
So
the
I mean,
semis, they were not
yeah,
that brilliant in the Euros, from my point of
like
view.
I'll definitely agree that Belgium's a better team than Denmark. However, Denmark had a way better qualifying than Belgium did by qualifying faster than them. And surprising everybody by not even drawing a game. They did not draw one game. They only had the one loss of the final match day.
Yeah, also I wanted to point out that even though you do not agree on that point, the invisibility frame they got at home, I think it will act and Wales will just qualify with 2 wins.
Okay,
That might,
that brings us.
at least we do agree it's both British nations that will fight for the spot at the end.
But I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them made it past the other. Right, that leaves us to Path B, I believe, and that would be Russia. Who has home advantage in that one? Is it Russia or is it
Uh,
Poland?
Team 1 is always the one that have home advantage, so it will Russia versus Poland in either
Okay,
Moscow or St. Petersburg, and the second match is Sweden versus Czech Republic, knowing that the winner of Russia-Poland will host the final.
okay. Um, those are two really good matches.
I would agree, but I think Russia-Poland is the hardest to predict, as Poland, I think Poland has the better roster, but like Lewandowski alone is a good argument on the table. But Russia at home, especially when they with that frustration, can be something else too.
I honestly disagree and think that the Sweden Czech Republic match is even tougher. Not by a like Russia and Poland. I think are both the better sides over Sweden and Czech Republic, but just I think Sweden and Czech Republic are more even matched than Russia Poland are.
So do you think the semi-final two is more even? So
I think it's going to be Poland and Sweden, and I think Poland's going to make it.
you know what? That's what I predicted when I made the video about Europe this afternoon. That's literally what I said.
But
That
it's going to be a last minute goal or a goal in extra time for Sweden to make it past the Czech
uh,
Republic.
I expect Poland to win the group. So, but if not Poland, it's Russia for me. Like Sweden is led by Ibrahimovic, but as I said, I think they are becoming like a floppy team once again. And Czech Republic are promising, but they did not ever reach their full potential yet. So for me, it will be Poland to win the group.
Yeah, that's what I'm predicting as well.
Okay, so at least we are kind of agreeing of this group only for the winner. So
Yeah. Okay, and that leaves us with the final one. So we've got Italy at home against North Macedonia and Portugal at home against Turkey. I think it's going to be Italy, Portugal. As much as I want to say North Macedonia, as much as I'm going to be rooting for them, I just don't think they're going to be able to defend enough against Italy for them to not score. Um, and that leaves the important matchup. Is it going to be in Lisbon or in Rome if that's the case?
no, no, the winner of Portugal Turkey will host the final.
Okay, so if I have Portugal, Italy, then it'll be in Lisbon. I'm gonna give the edge to Portugal only because they're the home side.
Much like you, I think both Italy and Portugal will beat Macedonia and Turkey and will play each other in the final. I think they are the two strongest teams in those playoffs without any doubt, and the fact they are drawn into the same path is just a shame for the world of football. That sure they've done like 4 pots instead of two, but they wanted to make it easier. I'm pretty sure they wanted more drama for the knockouts, or the risk of dramas, without it actually happening. But they played with fire on this one. And even so, we complained it's both Italy's and Portugal's fault if they are in the knockout stage at first.
Right. That was the chance they took by not winning out the group.
And yeah, my heart will say that Portugal will win the final, but as the manager is starting to make more and more discutable and weird choices, I think Italy that have listened to their mistakes in the 2018 playoffs will advance to the World Cup this time. I think they will not want to leave that shame again to be close to the World Cup without wanting to be out.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that story have traumatized the country and the national team, and their manager seems very skilled, and I'm pretty sure he found a way to avoid that fate again for this country, especially when you are European champions.
Mm. Didn't Portugal win it in 2016 though?
Yeah, but it was already 5 years ago.
That's true.
And since even so, they are still a strong team to play. Hence the fact that they only lost 1-0 to France in the Nations League. And I think it was a 2-2 tie in the Euro.
Okay,
Portugal showed in the qualifiers they are starting to have some mm, serious weaknesses within the team.
gotcha. All right, and I think that takes us to our final confederation.
Yes, North America, which is your confederation.
It is CONCACAF. Okay, so I guess I'll start since it's my confederation. So, this is North America. We're in the third and final round. So usually the third round is a hexagonal because hexagon has 6 sides and there's 6 teams. However, with this year's qualification, they decided to do an octagonal or 8 teams. Um, so we had the United States beat Mexico 2-0. Panama beat Honduras 3-2. El Salvador and Jamaica drew at 1-1. Canada beat Costa Rica 1-0. Then we had Jamaica draw with the United States in Jamaica 1-1. Panama beat El Salvador 2-1. Costa Rica beat Honduras 2-1, and Canada beat Mexico in chilly, cold, snowy Edmonton 2-1.
That's something to live for. So, what is surprising for those qualifiers, and you are on the first stands, so obviously you have seen it, is that to see that Canada, which is not a country known for its soccer, as you say on your continent, is first of the group, is first of the
Yes.
continent, is that is something we must point out.
Yeah. So Canada's leading, and they don't have any losses. They are the last team remaining in CONCACAF that has not that is undefeated.
Which is very impressive, but it's just a proof that the Canadian football, and I love to brag about it, is that since they got the hosting rights with USA and Mexico for the 2026 World Cup, Canada really made something about their football, and even though I'm not Canadian, I'm very proud of them. They created the CPL, which, as we both know, have made incredible progress since
Oh
their
yeah,
first season in 2019.
and they're still progressing.
They're still progressing now. Forge FC have managed to, sadly today they got eliminated in the CONCACAF League semi-finals on
Yeah,
away goals, but it's a really good advance, and thanks to that, they qualified for the Champions League, so Canada will have two clubs in the Champions League for the first time in history. It's incredible how Canadian football have progressed, and many players in the national team, no, not many, but an handful of players in the national team are competing and are playing from the CPL clubs. And even
I personally don't think it's that surprising that they have more than one team making it though. For next year, just because of the whole, there's now a huge Champions League and not two different leagues, and they're adding more teams to it. But their progression in soccer and in football has really impressed a lot of people.
and let's not forget that alongside United States, both countries managed to finally send their gold cracks into Europe. Like you get to send some players in Europe, but Canada too. Let's not forget about Alfonso Davies, for
Right,
example, the famous Alfonso Davies in Bayern Munich, or
and you've got
Jonathan
Pulisic as well.
Pulisic for United States, but also Jonathan David that plays in Lille, which are doing very well in the Champions League for now in Europe.
Hmm.
So yeah, those qualifiers are very exciting for the fact that there are more teams than usual. So it's not like two-thirds of the countries advance to the next round. You need to be top half, and I
So
think it's
top
a
three make it automatically, and then the fourth place team goes into the interconfederation or intercontinental playoffs. Excuse me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. This round is kind of a mix of CONMEBOL one stage and AFC third round actually.
I think, yeah, I will say another surprise is Jamaica being in sixth because when you think of CONCACAF soccer, you think USA Mexico as one and two in either order, and then you think of the Central Americans, and then you think Caribbean.
Yeah, it's true that
Um,
at the beginning everyone have put Jamaica and El Salvador as the two lowest nations. If Jamaica as the worst nation, I think. And even so, it's not that much of a difference. They got some ties and even a win, so they even got ahead of Honduras, which is a country you expect to to perform a bit better than that.
yeah, they're way underperforming, but they also had because of that they've also had their coach fired. So I don't think they're going to do very well at this qualifier.
I think it's even too late for them, actually.
Yeah.
Now, something that tickles me is that on Wikipedia it says they only played 8 matches. One, two. Oh no, okay, no. So okay, CONCACAF is different. You get to play 3 match days per international window instead of two. Okay, I get it
Yeah.
now. I thought you were at 10 match days already.
Yeah.
Okay,
You have 14 games.
yeah, I know you were 14 games, but I for some reason I thought you were at 10 match days and not 8. So now you are only midway. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything can happen technically, but I hope that the NAFU trio will stay at top. I think it's the
Mhm.
best you can send to the World Cup, and Panama in playoff is a very good option actually.
Yeah. I don't know if Panama's going to continue on their pace that they're at. The next five, six. 6 matches. But I don't know if it's going to be Costa Rica or Jamaica or even El Salvador. Like those three can still make it with Panama. Costa Rica, I'm not so sure. Like I was pretty high on them at first, but with how old the team is, their age is really showing.
Mm, it's true. So
They're only fifth because of their experience. They're not fifth because of their speed. Like Jamaica is definitely a speeder team. They can definitely jump ahead of Costa Rica.
I'm just looking at Canada's remaining matches, and outside of United States, like they have a very good remaining calendar and schedule.
Yeah.
Like they get to play Honduras, then United States, a big match, a big North American rivalry. Then they got to play El Salvador. So with
Yeah.
February alone, in the next international window alone, I think they can just guarantee their qualification.
Mhm. Yeah. Mexico doesn't really have a big matchup in these next 3 matches. They've got the United States, um, and that's about it left as far as a decent team. Unless you considered playing in Estadio Azteca against Panama as a decent game to watch as well, with them being third and fourth right now.
I think taking into account that Panama was the team that made the last World Cup, that were very good in the Gold Cup and the Nations League. Not the Nations League, I don't remember, but as they are very well performing and they are just on the same number of points as Mexico, I guess this match will be very important for Mexico.
I will remind you though that they almost didn't make it to this round.
Panama?
Yeah, Panama barely made it past Curacao.
Oh yes, yeah, I forgot about that because it was like 2 rounds ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but Curacao almost made it past Panama to make it to the stage.
You just reminded me that Trinidad and Tobago was undefeated, even beaten the teams that go past them in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, fat luck. But yeah, in the end, the groups will not be over by the time of episode 2, but I think we can see at least Canada and even United States maybe to just confirm their qualification spots. I
Yeah, I
hope.
think it's gonna be Canada, U.S., Mexico. Not necessarily in that order, but
Yeah, where the final position does not matter much. It's more of like we are in the World Cup, and based on our results, we can expect to be part one or part three.
yeah. Do you
Yeah.
want to do match predictions now for the next 3 days?
Mm, I, I have looked at all of them, and mostly any match that have Canada, USA, and Mexico, I will just give them wins or ties. And for the one match with Canada and United States, I even so Canada very good. I think USA will have like a tie with Canada or even a win. I want Canada to win, but I feel like for some reason the US will just have something turn in their favor. They just will just win it, and because that's when you expect it the less than you start to lose.
Mm-hmm. I can see them drawing. I Canada. Uh, I mean, I can see Canada drawing against Honduras only because they're gonna be in Honduras. Um, and same with El Salvador. But I mean, they can easily just as much win it, especially against a really bad Honduran team.
In the end, who do you think will make it to the playoffs? Panama?
At this point, I am going to go with Panama. Um, I think Jamaica has the best shot at kicking them out of that spot, though. Like Costa Rica, if it wasn't for the fact that they're so old, Costa Rica, I would have said Costa Rica. But
Yes, they're starting to get very old and the lack of young talents. So the national team is still very correct, but yeah, we just have the proof that they are not able to be a top tier team in their continent anymore.
The only reason why they're in fifth is basically because of their goalkeeper.
Keylor Navas is one of the best in the world and currently plays in Paris Saint-Germain. So what did you expect?
Exactly.
It's like Slovenia. Slovenia is actually mid-tier, maybe because they have a good goalkeeper. So yeah, a player can change anything. So now we have done all the 6 continents. I propose that now we finish with the international draw. What do you
Okay.
think of the playoffs that just happened before our eyes?
Yeah.
So, a
So
little reminder, the first playoff will be the AFC fourth round winner, so the team that won the Asian playoff to decide the number 5 team of their confederation against the CONMEBOL League 5th place. What do you think of that first draw?
Um, it kind of depends on who makes it from Asia to there. Especially, I have a gut feeling it's going to be from Group B, whether it's Japan, Saudi Arabia, or Australia, and they're going to have to go against a tough South American side in what could be maybe Peru, maybe Chile, could be Uruguay. Pick your poison. Pick your poison. Honestly, but both legs should be a good matchup.
Personally, I think it will be either Australia or United Arab Emirates. But I'm pretty confident that this, as you said, the third team of Group B will just be the number 5 in AFC. And in this case, I think it will be Australia once again. So yeah, Australia is probably a good contestant to represent Asia, despite not being an Asian country at first. And for CONMEBOL, it's harder to say which country will be the fifth. We can expect Peru, Chile, Colombia, or Uruguay, and in all those cases, I think, anyways, a team from South America, except if they are in really bad day, they will just win it and take the spot.
I believe if it was Australia Peru, I believe that'd be a rematch from the 2014 qualifiers, where Australia beat them in the two legs.
It will be something very cool to see. But I don't think Australia is able to beat a South American nation.
No,
At least not like in 2010 or 2006. Well, they did the impossible. But what I
but that
see.
leaves us with New Zealand. What we think is going to be New Zealand, or from
Okay,
whoever's from
so
OOC.
actually, it's the home team will be the fourth team in CONCACAF, so likely Panama, or I don't think Jamaica will make it. I think it will be Panama. Panama,
Okay,
like most likely Panama against the OFC final winner, as you said it, New Zealand. In that case, it's pretty even. I would like New Zealand, so Oceania will have a team since World Cup 2010, so 12 years
yeah, I
earlier.
would say New Zealand as well. Whether it's Panama or I think it's going to be Jamaica, but it could very easily be Panama. But I think New Zealand would beat both of them, anyways, in a two-legged tie.
Personally, I don't think Panama will win. I'm pretty sure that no, sorry, no, New Zealand will lose and Panama will win. Like I will, since OFC football was frozen since the beginning of the pandemic,
Hmm.
New Zealand didn't get to play any international match, and since
They've played a couple of friendlies, though, I believe.
maybe I don't remember, so but yeah, only a couple of friendlies, and it's like 50-50. Maybe they can beat Panama, but Panama, I think Panama are in a quite good shape actually. So I think CONCACAF will have 4 teams once again, like in 2014.
Okay.
That's my POV at least.
Right, I think that's
So
gonna do it for this podcast.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. It looks like it's already the end. We we finished the first episode of our podcast, so I'm pretty sure nobody will be here by now because
Probably not.
like it's been 1 hour, not 2 hours. When did we start it?
We
Oh,
started it. Yeah, it's been like 2 hours and 5 minutes or something like that.
yeah, we made 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think it's the longest video I have ever made, and only in one shot. So yeah,
Yeah,
it
totally
was
one take.
yeah. We will try to be a bit faster next time, but I mean it's our first episode, so of course we are not experienced with the concept.
Right.
But yeah, it was a fun experience, and I can't wait to make episode 2 in February.
Yeah. I can't wait for that either.
Okay, so it was a good video. I hope at least someone stay until the end, and see you
Congrats
next.
to you if you have. It is quite the slog.
Yeah, you are also a big masochist to follow us for like 2 hours.
Uh,
Anyway,
I can barely stand my voice after one.
oh my god. Imagine me speaking in something that is not my tongue for like 2 hours. I'm not used to the exercise.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a good episode, and I think it's time to put an end.
Yeah, I think so
Dear
too.
people of IFC and Toboloco, I hope you like the format, and see you for the next time. Have a good night.
Yeah.